it's amazing.
Isn't that trippy?
I can't even really imagine what that must feel like. You know, it's.
Well, they had this like about 3 months ago, a reading so the playwright could know how it sounded.
Uh-huh.
They had the play they called Verse and Fall. And
Hey, Shelley. Oh, exactly what I was going to ask you about.
my grandfather, though, was part of,
I'm just waiting on the printer is having an issue, but I have the announcement.
Okay.
But Danny, I put on
Yeah.
this list,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And if you remember when you make the announcements up, just put a line about the offering the chumash.
Oh, I didn't do that. I've done them, but I'll add that.
No, don't worry. I mean, even
No,
I'll
I
just
can
write it
add it
down.
in.
Just write chumash for people. Should be able to. Sorry, Carl. Give me 1 second. I want to hear the rest.
put the pages together in order.
No, the truth is, what it is for me most of the time is making sure that I didn't leave pages from the previous week around, which
Page
is,
6 when you're on 9.
yeah,
Yeah, my grandfather was in, as a juvenile in Boris Tomaszewski's Yiddish theater troupe.
oh wow, wow,
So there's theater in the family. My brother's a blues singer. Our cousin Stevie played with Miles Davis, the saxophone. A lot of performance.
That's amazing.
So I felt comfortable doing it, you know. And being on TV as a journalist, it's like a
right.
reporter.
It's true. You're not coming in completely fresh-faced from that way, you know. But still, I think it's even just the idea that you're playing yourself in a role.
Oh, when I saw
Right,
my
it's-
name, I mean, there's,
You know, it's that itself. Thank you, Shelley. That alone is fascinating, right? That alone.
And apparently it was a real success at its premiere. Show.
Okay, I have no pockets in terms of alcohol.
All right.
Shabbat shalom.
Do you need a safe place to leave something? Because you can always leave in my office if you need.
He has pockets, I think. Gotta try the figs I brought.
You brought figs. Oh, I remember every year when you bring them. They taste delicious. I'm a big fan. And, you know, very connected to Israel figs.
Oh, today, huh?
Yeah, well, so we'll get there, Carl. We'll get.
What a situation.
Oh God, I know. So I can't. The whole week, right? I mean, there's a million things. It's just one thing after another. Hey.
I think I told you, I came very close to joining the staff of the Jerusalem Post years ago. But for a reporter, they wanted fluent Hebrew. I could be an editor, they said, but
Not a reporter in that way.
But
Boy, that feels like, of all the limiting factors these days, it's the one thing that there is an abundance of capacity for dealing with, right? I mean, Apple's announcement yesterday, right? They announced phones and new earpods and whatever, but part of that announcement was that for certain languages, the headphones that you have, if they're Apple headphones, will be able to translate in real time when somebody's speaking. I mean, this is the stuff of the Jetsons, right? I mean, it's like inconceivable. I mean, the problem with that is the same problem with trusting any translator, even on a high level, is no matter what, you're in their hands, right? You have to put full faith that they're telling you that what they say is correct. So that, of course, for me, that would always fill me with anxiety. As much as I like to trust the computer, I don't think I would want to trust it with translating necessarily, at least not as a guinea pig. Maybe 10 years from now. But my experience so far with technology is that if there is an early version of it today, then there will be a competent version of it in 10 years, and that really, I mean, if you think about it, that's pretty life-changing, right? If all of a sudden you could travel the world and immediately understand what everybody's saying. But still, a bit hard to imagine that really is going to work. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Janet, would you like to light candles tonight? Okay, wonderful. Okay, excellent. Tissue, I don't even know. That one never gets old, by the way. Never gets old. My kids don't get it, but I used to.
I never got it either when I was a kid. And like, tissue. Like a tissue. Oh.
Many seats.
Huh?
Sit anywhere, right? Sit anywhere.
but he's complaining about it being too cold, right? It's that. It's yeah.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, but you should prepare for the holidays though, because that one is always, no matter what I do, it ends up being cold.
Wear your summer clothes for the holidays.
Yeah. I actually put that in my announcements for this
I don't
evening.
know, I might get a couple of weeks. What's, today's the 12th, so. I know, what happened? What is that? And it's not from today, it's gotta be from before. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that too.
Like dry cleaning.
That only seconds to lie flat to dry. That one gets me every time. What person has all the space to lay all of these things down
They
flat
have
for
the
them?
dryer, so when the dryer goes on.
You know, it's just, and of course, you know, you'd think that children's clothing would all just be right to the washer and dryer, but this is not the case.
I have two
You know?
sweaters I have.
Nothing quite so frustrates me as
Dry
Right.
I'm always washing clothes because I wear them so much. I wash them in the washing machine, hang them up, and hang them in the bathroom. When they dry themselves, I pull them out of the room.
I have my white terry, I have a lot of robes, but I wear my white terry robe.
That I only wear for the shower.
All the time. I was in the shower today, cleaning the walls in the shower today. Oh my gosh, I was exhausted. Because the girls use my shower and they don't clean it, so I'm like, all right. How you doing? I've been talking to Ellen
Very
today.
sparkly tonight.
Fine, it just went to the doctor yesterday because
Isn't that something, huh?
4 weeks.
Fundamental level, you know, is that something that we want? I don't know.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks, oh, in the
I've been doing
beginning.
epidural.
No,
No, but I had two diseases.
then the kids came over and then,
And it was
Right,
gone,
that's what she
and then, when I was on the scooter,
Oh, and now
Yeah,
I wasn't putting any pressure on it.
you know,
flare up.
Stitches came out.
I don't,
And then I could put some pressure.
higher or lower, I'm not sure. You know, is it like, right, yeah, you know.
I don't know what the pressure is. Because, he weighed me, and he used one.
They have one F.
And then he had.
No, what they are is
On the scale, because the pressure.
I use something. No, I think actually that most of
It was,
those
it was like the whole,
are like people who
like,
took.
figure it out. And they said, you should feel that.
And if you think
that
about it,
pressure,
you're in
that's
small
always
capital, the second F makes 0 sense. So, you know, there's like, it's completely superfluous. So the history of our family is when we're still trying to figure out exactly, there's a theory that they, you know, like our part of the family came from Covenant from Lithuania. But before that, there's a theory that they were, you know, Spanish Portuguese and left during the Inquisition and then ended up in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, there is a town called Geffen with 2 F's. So so that actually was my brother's argument why we could eat kitniot on Pesach, was like that he finally accepted that. He's like, forget that it even just rationally makes more sense. It's our apparent, like, deep-seated Sephardic nature. But the truth is, I've always felt an affinity. I think I agree with them more often than not. You know,
And you know, I.
not necessarily on political worldview, but you know, well, you know, it was
But you don't have pillows anymore.
oh, it's very comfy.
It's time home thing. Oh, that's good.
Boy, boy, what a world! Boy, what a world! Yeah, no, I got you. That's good.
You know, it's just waiting.
Alrighty.
And it doesn't hurt, really, you know. No, I have a cane.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Whew. Well, very, very uneventful week. Nothing much to say about anything, but really, it's especially and it feels like in the weeks leading up to the high holidays, that there should be some understanding in the world that nothing major should take place, so that rabbis can just focus on their high holiday sermons or whatever it is. Not to be the case. And all flippancy aside, obviously, a number of things both here and in Israel this week and in even the last 24 hours, and can't speak on every single thing, but to know that if you're anything like me and you're connected to the world that we all live in, you're coming in this Shabbat, I think, with a lot of complicated emotions. So we're going to pray together, we're going to sing together, we're going to think together, and I'm going to share a little something a little bit later that hopefully will be meaningful in some way or the other. But I think this is one of those Shabbats where it might just be a good idea to just take a moment, take a deep breath in, and let out, and just let go of a lot of the stuff that we're coming in with, and let's come into the Shabbat with a sense of newness, a sense of hope, and we'll invite Janet, who's going to light our 2 sets of Shabbat candles here, our 2 sets as we continue to light, one set for us in Sag Harbor and one for the hostages we hope will be freed soon. Okay, I would love to.
Some are easier than
Some are easier.
The one that you picked are never easy.
You know what? I can't take credit for picking this one. This is someone else's. But you know what? We're gonna find one that I think is more. You know what, Janet? I appreciate that. That would actually be lovely. Because we want everybody to be able to. Janet, thank you. All right, then before we begin Kabbalat Shabbat, let's just take a moment to wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. If you came with someone, you can turn to them, give them a hug, appropriate kiss, whatever it might be. Especially if you're around people you don't know, why don't you introduce yourselves, wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. All right, and we'll turn now to page 130 at the very top of the page. We'll begin Kabbalat Shabbat together. Again, page 130. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Naria, Naria, letzori, shenu nekadma, vana vetoda. Naria, Naria, letzori, shenu, mizmirot Naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. We're now on page 131, Shiru Ladonai. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruchu Shemo. Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai Baruchu Shemo. Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruchu Shemo. Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai Baruchu Shemo. Basru meyom leyom Yeshuato. We'll turn to Or Zarua now on page 132 at the very bottom of the page. Or Zarua la tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Or Zarua la tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai vehodu lezecher kodsho. We'll turn now to Zamru on the top of page 134. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayamum lo'o, tebehel ve'yoshveva. Neharot imcha uchav yachad harim yiradeinu lifnei Adonai kiva lishmot haaretz yishmot tevel betzedek vehamim mesharim Yiram hayamum lo'o, tebehel ve'yoshveva, neharot imcha uchav yachad, harim yiradeinu. We're now on page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. We'll turn now to the 29th Psalm on page 136, beginning at the top of the page. Mizmor leDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shober harazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidehem kemo hegel, Levanon ve'Sirion, Kemo ben Reimim, Kemo ben Reimim, Kol Adonai chotzev lahabotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai echol elayalot, Vayechel
וכסוף יערות, ובחלו כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
We'll turn now to L'chad D on page 138. We'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs, and for the final paragraph, we'll rise and face the doors we walked through just a few moments ago.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmianu, El hamiyuchad Adonai echad uhu shemo echad l'shemo tiferet ve'elitila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu benelcha, ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri kiva orech, kumi uri, shir daberi kevod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret balagam besimcha, uvetzolat ochemune aham segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 140, Tzadik Katamar, where it indents in Hebrew, just in the middle of the page.
Tzadik Katamar yifrach, keres balbanon yizke, shetulim bebeit Adonai, vechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenuvun deseva, deshenim verananim yihu lehagim, ki ashar Adonai tsuri velo avlatabo.
We'll rise in body or spirit for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144, and then remain standing for the Baruch Hu on the next page.
Yitkadal vehitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'amad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalaha, ba'agalaha, ubizman kariv eimeru. Amen. Yehesh me rabba mevarach, lehalam lial me'al maya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shemei dekutra brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da mihiran behalma v'yimeru. Baruch hu et Adonai ha-mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. Let's turn together to page 148, and we'll read in English beginning at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Umahavir yom umevi laila, umavdihil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, amahari v'arhavim. Turn now to page 151, and we'll read together in English toward the top of the page. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ki ehem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'lahaila, v'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please join me on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha Hayom al levavecha, veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta bam, veshivtecha bevetecha, uvelechtecha baderech, ushochbecha uvkumecha, ushartam leot ayadecha, vehayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'od lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Let's read together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158.
Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh. Nora tehilot o sefele, Nora tehilot o sefele. Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam. Yai bye ba 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 bye, ya ba bye bye bim bam. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokeam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zelianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'en. V'nemar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, u'kolo miad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu is on the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ushmor tzeteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We turn to Vishamru on the top of page 162. Veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I'll invite us now to rise in body or spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we'll continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace. When you're finished, at the end, if you're still standing, you may be seated. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehillatech. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oseh shalom imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll turn now to page 371 as we offer our Misha Berach, our healing prayer for this evening. And as we turn to page 371, we'll think of those in our community who we are praying for this evening. Ronnie Lidowitz, Madeline Egelfeld, Abigail Blum, Kate Sherwood, Herman Gould, Ellen Ruby, Ame and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devora Bat Francis, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, David Kyle Klopman, Lorraine Davis, Kim Birnbaum, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Rachel Bat Ora, Peretz Ben Shlomo, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Jill Fagan, Stan Posner, Rona Klotman, Alona Bat Rachel, Mort, and Judy. In addition to those names that I just shared, we'll give an opportunity for anyone who would like to add additional names. And so we'll start on this side of the room in the front and work to the back. And then if you have additional names to share on this side, same idea. Of course. Of course.
Judy.
And Judy, of course.
Wendy Becker, Nancy Becker.
Joe Emmanuel, Judy, Jackie Emmanuel, Roots, Joe Emmanuel, Jackie Emmanuel, Donna Julia Espinosa, Linda Hennigan, Kelly Mulholland, and Maureen Epperson.
Jill Buckley, Ryan Otten.
Audrey Tupaski, Diane Schwartz, Ron Kenny, Mario Honey, R, Judy Lipton, Lauren Meredith Gerber, Dottie Kevin Major, Honey L, Adrian Gerber, Kathy Gray, Susan Barrett, Mary Fox Kane, Diane Lewis, Diane Youngblood, Ellen Ruby, and Joelle. Julie Melman.
Kurt Postman.
Of course, we invite our friends again at home to add the names of their loved ones as we join together in the middle of page 371 in prayer for healing. Misheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We now offer our prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and now that heart is broken. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds, be with our brothers and sisters who have been taken captive and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. Proclaim release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned. Comfort the families, bring them under the shelter of your wings. Bring complete healing of body and spirit to all the wounded. Bind up our wounds and grant us healing. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, rock and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care, spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend us. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Israel, guardian of Israel. Strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel who stand guard on the land and the air and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist realized. You turned my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God, protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people, and together we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So certainly a very, very, very tough week. I think anybody who considers themselves a citizen of this country can't have not been impacted by an assassination that takes place on a college campus. And certainly I've had a lot of very deep feelings, very complicated thoughts about that this week. I'm not quite at a place where I think I have much to contribute to the conversation other than to say that regardless of what one may think about a person or their politics or who they are and what they represent, and even the things that may be done and said that may be hurtful and in some cases deadly in its way, this is not the solution. Okay? Shooting at people and taking their lives. If there's one thing the Torah repeatedly comes back to is that extrajudicial justice is not a value. There are many values and many ways to express those values and many ways to even be frustrated, but this is not the way. But that is not what I'm focusing on tonight. I'm focusing on another thing that is of consequence to me, and I know to many of you, but I'm going to get there by means of our Torah portion this week. So as we've talked about, the end of the Torah is something of a mad dash on Moses' part. In the last waning days of his life, waning hours of his life, he tries to impart as much wisdom as he possibly can. Sometimes that's problematic in the sense that it comes so rapid fire that there isn't a lot of time to even really process all the mitzvot that are being thrown at our ancestors and at us. Last week has the single most total number of mitzvot, as I talked about last week, 74 of them. This week kind of continues at pace. Kitavo deals with, again, a lot of matters of what it means to build a just society, but it does that not necessarily in the most direct way. So it begins with a conversation of the Bikurim. Just out of curiosity, does that name or that word in Hebrew ring out to anybody? A Bikurim. Okay. I got a maybe from Margaret in the back, our resident Israeli, right? Probably comes from harvest. Excellent. So it's a very particular part of the harvest. So you're right on, but there's an added layer of it. So the Bikurim are the first fruits, right? The most choice, the first things in their season that appear. And it's such an important thing that actually it's discussed 4 times in the Torah, this being the final of them. And the gist of all of them, if you boil them down to their essence, all right, if we go back to the first commandment in Exodus, Reshit bikurei admatecha, the first and choice fruits of your soil, what do you do with them? You gather them up and you bring them to the house of Adonai and you offer them up as a sacrifice. Now, it begins sort of broadly in this way, and eventually it becomes actually a pretty well-practiced part of Israelite society. Once the Hebrews become Israelites, once they enter the land of Israel and they establish it, and the temple is built, there is a regular practice, a regular expectation that the Bikurim will be brought to the temple again. We're not talking about, what is like if you've ever been to a county fair, this isn't a competition to see who has the best pumpkin or the best squash. It's self-reflective, right? It's not the Bikurim of the other. It's whatever is yours, whatever you grow on your land. And that emphasis is very important. And we learn a few things much later on in the Talmud. The Talmud deals with the issue of Bikurim actually at great length in a number of different tractates, all the more so by the rabbis of the Gemara later on in a few successive generations. But one of the sections, Mishnah Peah, which deals with, I'm sure you are more familiar with the word payas. Okay, we all picture what payas are. Payas are the fringe locks, but what payot are is basically anything that is on the fringe of something. Right? So Mishnah Peah is about the expectation and the obligation that we leave the corners of our fields for people who do not have that which to eat to be able to come and to take what it is that they need. Okay, so Mishnah Peah again is dealing with this idea of agriculture, certainly, but agriculture with a social consciousness. There's a purpose behind that which is grown and an expectation about how what grows from the earth is ultimately shared amongst the people, even from your own personal property. And of this sort of description, the Bikurim stand out in a category. We actually have, over centuries,
pushed it in, pulled it into a piece of our liturgy, which we do tomorrow morning, in which there is a question that is asked, what are the things in the world that are limitless, in which there is no limitation whatsoever? And the Mishnah tells us there are a few things of which there is no limit placed upon them. One is the peot, right, the corners of your field. The other is the bikurim. In other words, there isn't in the commandment an expectation of an amount per se. Okay? It doesn't tell you, and the Torah is very clear in other places, that there is very much a clear expectation of the amount of something and exactly how it's supposed to be categorized and where it's supposed to be given, all those kinds of things. When it comes to the bikurim, when it comes to these first fruits, there is no limitation placed on it. So theoretically, one could identify the entire crop as being the bikurim, the best of whatever it is I can produce, and could theoretically give it over. Of course, that's not how it really works out in reality, but the rabbis take this as a symbol that this is actually something much more significant than just your average horticulture, right? Or your average conversation about what's grown and what's consumed. These bikurim become something else. They become a symbolic representation of the best of what it is that we are able to produce, and rather than consuming it ourselves, we are expected to bring it and to offer it up in the temple and offer it up ultimately to God. Now the rabbis go even a step further. If we go to the Mishnah and we go to the section that is called bikurim because it deals exclusively with this topic, we learn something else that's very interesting. So in the verses themselves, there is an emphasis on the fact that it must be your land, specifically your land. So in Mishnah Bikurim at the very beginning, it says, okay, and some of this is going to be a little bit of, just to warn you ahead of time, rabbinic back and forth. I'll explain it at the end if you get lost in it. Okay, so some bring Bikurim, first fruits that must be brought to the temple in Jerusalem and given to the priesthood, and recite the accompanying biblical passage. Now, that biblical passage also appears in our Torah portion, in which we say out loud that we were once wandering Arameans. You may remember from the Seder, Arami Oved Avi, right? That this is our background, that we come from nothing. And so we offer these bikurim as a sign of our gratitude to God, right? A recognition of how far we have come from our days of being oppressed and chased, and we're finally in our land. And so therefore we're going to offer this bikur again with the greatest of our intentions. Okay, but in certain cases, there are some people who bring the bikurim but don't make this recitation of this particular passage. And then there's some that don't bring the bikurim at all. That's what we're going to focus on, right? Who is in the category of who's exempted from bringing the bikurim, or equally important, who is not permitted to bring bikurim? Okay, these are the people that don't. Okay, one who plants in one's own property, but the tree leans into another person's private or public property. Okay, so you have let's say Janet just brought some beautiful figs, right, for us to enjoy. Okay, but let's just say Janet planted their fig tree a little too close to the neighbor's yard, and that fig tree grew over. Okay, and let's just say the bikurim theoretically would be the one growing on the tree that's hanging over the neighbor's fence. Okay, not acceptable. And vice versa, right? One that maybe plants on the other side, then grows onto your side, also not acceptable. Also, if there is a public street located right next to your home and it grows out into the street, same principle. So it's not just a question of whether you have a neighbor or not. If it goes beyond the boundary of your property, okay, it falls into that place. And in all these cases, right, you can't bring it. And what is the reason, say the rabbis? They quote Exodus 23:19, the first time that bikurim are brought up, and it says, the first fruits of your land, Reshit bikurei admatecha. Okay, the adamah that belongs to you, implying, says the rabbis, that all that is grown must be entirely from your land. And therefore, legitimate categories like sharecroppers, renters, okay, people who otherwise don't own the land, they work it. So for them, it's not appropriate for them to bring the bikurim because it's not really, in effect, theirs. They take all the pride in it, certainly, but it belongs to whoever the landowner is. But then we get two other categories. One that will mean nothing to any of you and one that will be a little bit more obvious. Okay, one is sikarion. I'll explain what that is in a second. And the other are thieves, right? Somebody who steals land. So the sikarion are the interesting part because what they are is sort of hard to define. When I looked it up and I tried to go as deep as I could to figure out where exactly does this word come from, even just hearing it, even if you don't really know the Hebrew language, you can already intuit that it's not actually I'll use the word native Hebrew word.
It is a borrowed word, a cognate from, if I'm not mistaken, from Aramaic, but itself apparently refers to a practice of the Romans of seizing property, right? And then determining that property is theirs and then selling it off to another party. So the Sicarion are basically, you say it and you kind of spit on the ground. They're not pleasant people. They're people basically that have come to own their land by acts of violence, by acts of, again, not just theft, but a sort of conscious confiscation against the rule of law, and then using that land and then selling it other. Okay. Now, probably doesn't take much in the room. I saw at least a few people whisper to each other to imagine at least a little bit of where my mind went to as I was thinking about this. And I'm thinking about this, and again, I hope at this point I don't have to demonstrate my Zionist bona fides, right? Like my love for the state of Israel is as deep as anything. But part of that love is knowing from time to time that things are happening that are deeply concerning to me, and deeply concerning to me and my Zionism, and my love of Israel, and my want for Israel to be the country that I know that it can be, that I hope that it can be, and that it tries desperately to be. But in this last 48 hours, there were two events that are related to each other that may have gotten past most of our radars simply because of what happened in the United States this week. One of which was a gathering in Ma'ale Adumim, which is one of the settlements outside of Jerusalem, really just outside of Jerusalem. I don't know, Margaret, within 10 miles, 15 miles, 20? It's a close drive, and it's one of the most significant built-up settlements. It's one of the ones where even those that are hoping for a two-state solution, right, would tell you is not going anywhere. But between it and East Jerusalem, there is a significant section of land that has purposely not been developed, precisely because it is understood to be something of both a political bargaining chip for some ultimate agreement, but also because if it were to be developed fully, would in a sense, if not in essence, cut the West Bank into two pieces, right? Essentially make it almost impossible or viable for there to be a contiguous Palestinian state should there ever become one. Now, why is this particularly relevant? Why did it happen in the last 24 hours? Because shortly before that at the United Nations, there was a vote to accept a declaration which is non-binding, but in advance of another vote that is to come up in the General Assembly, in which significant countries in the world are planning to recognize a Palestinian state, even if it doesn't exist. Now, in this room, as in every synagogue in the country, there will be lots of different feelings about that, and whether that has changed since October 7th, whether you've always felt a certain kind of way. The number of people who talk about, for example, two-state solution, you hear almost never at this point. Even people that have supported the idea have become increasingly despondent. But a situation like this presents an added urgency to the conversation on both levels. And both of them speak to, again, to me, something of a extrajudicial attempt to solve the problem from the outside. And both of them are something of, again, a cause and a response, a backwards and forwards, that, in my estimation, neither of which will actually help the people on either side to achieve what each are hoping ultimately to achieve. But it had me thinking, as I studied, again, this week's Parsha, and as I studied this conversation around the Bikurim, and I, in particular, got to this section about what does it mean to consider your land? And what does it mean for purposes, again, of a more nefarious purpose, to declare someone else's land yours before that declaration has taken place? And in essence, right, that idea of like growing your tree to fall onto your neighbor's property, giving you means by which to say that is mine. These were concerns in the ancient world as it is today. We deal obviously on national levels now, but the rabbis of the Talmud were dealing with neighborhoods, dealing with actual neighbors, people dealing with the real situation that many of us in our room tonight probably have experienced with our neighbors, even in this area, right? Where the lines are drawn and who ultimately owns what and so on. And the concern, obviously, that I have is that it's not so much even a question of the politics of it, but the decision ultimately of the government, if they should go ahead, and it sounds as if they will, to build up this area, will, without any question, put a significant barrier, if not almost an impossible barrier, between any hope for a two-state solution. And while I would never put any of you on the spot to say where you are and what you feel, I absolutely feel comfortable to say, as I have said from day one, that is my vision for the hopes of the state of Israel and their Palestinian neighbors. that there would be some way in which to create two states living side by side with each other in peace. Every one of those dreams have been upended since October 7th. Every one of my beliefs have been challenged every day since. But that doesn't mean that I've given up on that hope, because to me, that hope is tied into my hope for my family and my friends in Israel, and the generations of children that they're going to raise and the generations to come after them. And when we think about the Bikurim, yes, we can think about figs and pomegranates and grapes and all of the things that the Torah describes. But the real Bikurim of the state of Israel, modern state of Israel, are its children. Is its next generation, who are under threat certainly from exterior sources, there is no question. But if we create again an everlasting circumstance in which we are guaranteeing two peoples to be at war with each other in perpetuity, then what we have essentially guaranteed is that the next generation and the generation after that will be offered up in war. And to me, that is an unacceptable outcome. I'm not a politician. I don't have the answers. But I can point to something and say that's not acceptable to me. To me. And if I can't say that, then I forfeited a certain amount of my right to be here as your rabbi. That in every moment in which I love the state of Israel, in which I embrace it, in which I push back against all of its detractors and its enemies, I have to be equally willing to stand up and say when I'm seeing something happening from within that concerns me dearly and greatly. And this is not a small thing. We can look at it as a political stunt. It can be written off that way. But I don't think that's what's going on right now. I think this is very serious. And most likely what will happen at the UN in a few weeks is going to happen at the UN regardless of how we feel about it. Okay? And what's happening, again, in the West Bank is going to happen regardless of how we may feel about it. But that doesn't mean that we have nothing to say. And I think the words of the Torah, while, again, could very easily be specific to a bushel of berries or fruits, to me, it's always been symbolic of something much greater. It's our highest aspirations, right? Our whole concept of our place in the land of Israel is that it is a gift that God gave to us that is in perpetuity, but is based upon our behavior and how we treat it. And that doesn't just mean the actual physical land itself, but it means also the people who live upon it, people who are ours and people who are not necessarily ours. And at this point, there is, as I said, increased danger day by day that we're going to reach a point, a Rubicon that we're going to cross, in which it will be next to impossible to go backwards. And for me, I want to let politicians do what politicians do. I want conflict resolvers to resolve conflicts. But me as a rabbi, as a leader in the Jewish people, I also have to be involved in that conversation one way or the other. And I don't have, again, a political voice, but I have the voice of Torah. And this, again, is not an arbitrary line that I picked out of nowhere, nor is it something that I myself created. These are ideas that are first expounded in the Torah 4 times, and then by the rabbis in entire sections of the Talmud, just to try to understand how it is that we are meant to behave. If they're going to go to this level, to be absolutely certain that that which has grown on your own land is what you offer up, then we shouldn't even, right? Siyag l'Torah, the same thing I taught you guys last week, we shouldn't even get close to the possibility of one questioning whether it is ours. And if we do this, we open up, again, all manner of attack from all manner of direction. And I think we have an obligation now, as always, to keep our eyes and our hearts and our hopes connected to the land of Israel, to its people, and ultimately to its leadership, whether we choose them or otherwise. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and just know that, if you disagree with me, you always know where to find me. Shabbat Shalom. We'll rise as we turn to page 586, Aleinu L'Shabeach, at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu L'Shabeach, L'Adon HaKol, L'Atet Kedula, L'Yotzer Breshit, Sheloho Asanu Kegoyei Haratzot, Veloho Samanu Kemishpachot Adama, Sheloho Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Anachnu Korim, Umishachachim Umodim, Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, hayom hahu b'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. Ask those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who've passed in our community in recent months. Danny Horowitz, Stephen Dickman, Michael Fagenbaum, Sharon Lee Goldblatt, Harry Heller, David Carlin, Morris Kramer, Leonard Lauder, Ann Lieber, Jeanette Meyerowitz, Carol Nadell, Perry Ranan, Phyllis Cole Rowan, Gloria Sapiro, Luis Silberman, and Sue Wartor. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Heather Abrams, Rose Appel, Esther Becker, Elias Birnbaum, Tina Turoff Clark, Jean Deshevsky, Harry Fadum, Roz Fisher, Estelle Gould, Paul Gould, Olga Gao, Beverly Grunwald, Stanley Kirshner, Lee Kutash, Douglas Lehman, David Lieberman, Trudy Mendelovich, Edward Moody, Harry Olstein, Joseph Reif, Yetta Riskin, James Rothschild, Bessie Shockett, Dorothy Sazitsky, Lottie Weiss, and Lynn Wolkenbrock. In addition to those names that I just shared, if anyone is saying Kaddish for anyone we didn't mention and would like to mention. We'll invite our friends watching at home to add the names of their loved ones as well, and invite the mourners to join me on page 598. And if it's your custom to rise alongside them, you may do so at this time. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'vizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitramam ve'yitnaseh. Ve'yithadar ve'yit'aleh ve'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Okay, so a few announcements. Please join us next door for our Oneg Shabbat, and of course to join us for Shabbat services tomorrow morning, beginning at 10 o'clock. Torah study will be led this week by Leah Oppenheimer. This will be our Torah study using the women's commentary for the week. For the month, we normally do it at the beginning of the month, but this month we're doing it on Shabbat, so please join us again here in person or on Zoom as well. Also a reminder that tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock we'll have a little bit of learning and then a brief service of Slichot. For those that maybe don't know too much about Slichot, I won't give you the sermon. I'll probably just look up the video from a couple of years ago where I explained it in greater detail. But its main concept is that the rabbis, they're big into the idea in the same way that when you're about to go out for a run or to exercise, you need to stretch. So the rabbis understood that, but on a spiritual level, right? You can't just come right into the high holidays and think it's going to do its thing. You need a little bit of preparation, both on a physical level and on an emotional, spiritual level as well. And slichot is from the Hebrew word slicha, which means lisloach means to forgive or to ask for forgiveness. So slichot is both the name of the service and the name of the petitionary prayers that make it up, built around the concept of the 13 attributes of God, which we chant, I won't say ad nauseum, but many times on Yom Kippur. And its basic idea is that we are acknowledging our failures, right? Our places in which we have failed to live up to both God's standards and our own, and also to remind ourselves of God's forgiveness, that even amidst our failures, that there is the possibility of redemption and understanding at the end of it. So Slichot are, we have a service that we do here, but I'm going to teach a little bit, as I've taught over the years, about how the various ways in which different communities around the world celebrate, and I'll even have some examples of those to share with everybody. So I wasn't actually thinking about streaming it, but if there's interest in it, I'll be happy to stream it. We're going to start at 7 o'clock, as I said, with a bit of learning. We'll end by 8 o'clock. Normally, Slichot services are done between midnight and 6 a.m., but I think at this point, after 11 years, I know my congregation and myself well enough to know that is not ultimately going to happen in any capacity. So join us again Saturday at 7 o'clock. Also, a reminder, where is it? Sunday morning, we will have our first annual mitzvah day. Many people have already signed up to help us. We're going to do things like pick tomatoes for the food pantry at Amber Waves at Amagansett, walk dogs and play with cats at ARF in Wainscott, help our friend Leah at CME to reorganize their children's library, lots of activities here at Temple, getting brown bags ready for the High Holiday Food Drive, writing Rosh Hashanah cards to our Temple's IDF lone soldier Noah, and many other things that Shelley and the Social Justice Committee have worked on for us. And those that will participate with us will get, aside from the gratitude of just doing wonderful things in the world, we'll give you also a freshly made hat. I want to thank Lou, who helped to design and to make these hats, to order them for us. And they were actually very nice hats. So, again, you shouldn't need a hat to get you to come and do mitzvahs on a Sunday, but we like to at least, give you something. And if nothing else, great advertisement for the temple when you're walking around, getting whatever it may be. I will just say this year, because of the Mitzvah Day, we're not going to be at Harbor Fest, so if you're looking around for us, we won't be there this year. But, if you should happen to go around on Sunday in the afternoon, a good reason, again, to wear your hat, okay? Tell people about the high holidays, which, of course, are coming up. I know that the entrance cards, I think, were mailed this week. If you have any questions about any of the administrative things, not jokingly, in all seriousness, please call Shelley or Gail. I will not be able to help, most likely, with any of that. But I hope that I will see some of you, if not all of you, during the holidays. And if I don't, I want to take this opportunity to wish you and your family and your loved ones L'Shana Tova, Techatemu v'Techavtevu, may it be a year in which we are both entered and then sealed into the book of life, and Metuka v'Shalom, may it also be one of sweetness, and ultimately, we hope, a year of peace. Also, you may have noticed if you were in the room with us, then you came in, there were a whole bunch of books piled up in the corner. Those are Chumashim. They are the older version of the Chumash that we use in the room here, and they've just been taking up space really in my closet, and it occurred to me that maybe there are some in the room who don't actually have a Chumash at home. It's an excellent resource. It may be, a little bit out of date, but the Torah never goes out of date. It's just the commentary that changes. So if you don't have a Chumash, if you know somebody who might enjoy one, we left them out on the tables. Please do take one with our blessing. May you use it in good ways. May it bring Torah out into the world in both a literal and a figurative fashion. And also just a warning that I make around this time of year, if you will be joining us for the holidays and you tend to get cold, remember that we for the sake of all the people in the room tends to be colder than normal. So make sure that you bring something warm with you so that you're not totally freezing. And if you like it cold, please sit in the first 3 rows on either side, and we'll even each other out in some form or the other. Okay, so with that, we'll turn to, let's do Shalom Aleichem, page 627, then we'll Kiddush and Motzi, and we'll go next door. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mihi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mihi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mihi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll rise for Kiddush on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'horei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza b'hanu v'shabahat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki bahanu v'acharta ve'otahanu kidashta mikol hamim ve'shabat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Please come next door. So, there you go, Mike. So I saw an email